Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars.
SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. Change can bring out the best in people, but it can also be difficult to navigate for some. Change coach Esther De La Cruz says making change easier or even enjoyable is achievable if you adopt the right mindset and focus on the benefits and rewards. She starts by explaining to Jeff Waters her methods for taking the pain out of change.
As we've properly launched into 2023, and we're a few weeks in, there's still the aftermath of the COVID period, the global pandemic that is settling into businesses. And the conversation is still very much around the balance of working from home and working in the office and how to find the right balance for that. And this also plays into attracting and keeping your talent on board as well, because this flexibility has really started to become quite important to people's balanced lifestyle, the work-life balance. But it also means that there's positives around it, but there's also negatives about that balance, because how do you make sure that you can still meet each other on a regular basis and do that meaningful work face-to-face that you on occasion do need? And the question also arises, how do we build cultures when we are working from home a lot and we're not all in the office at the same time? So there are definitely challenges around that aftermath of COVID still, that we're still settling into a new way of working that hasn't been fully bedded down or we fully know what works best. Is it a hybrid? Is it forcing people back into the office full time? Or is it at everyone's discretion? It is still a question I hear a lot.
So there's ongoing change there, you're saying, where we're not in a situation of stasis now?
Not yet. We haven't found the real right kind of silver bullet when it comes to that hybrid way of working now, that some people like to work from home, so other people like to see each other in the office, but also where do we do our best work and the meaningful work that needs to happen both face-to-face as well as virtually. I think the other aspect to it is that some people are better at virtual connecting with people versus other people that still need to learn that a bit more, that whole virtual connecting with colleagues and building rapport with new colleagues or stakeholders. So I think there's a raft of opportunity there that we still really need to kind of embrace and come to terms with in this new way of working post-COVID.
So in a nutshell, what steps can a business take to overcome that?
It is about exploring what is the type of work that can be done very effectively and very well by people remotely. And also, what is the type of work that really adds value to the business that is best done face-to-face? And identifying those different types of tasks or work experiences that need to be done or done best in either remote or a face-to-face context, and working with your staff on solutions on how to make that happen. I've been having conversations a lot with leaders around making the trip to the office a meaningful one. So if people are equally so able to do their work in the office the same as they would do at home, and they're effective doing it in either context, then let's look at those things that add value to our business as a whole. For example, team building and culture building. Let's look at those things and the activities we need to associate with that and make those activities very deliberate in the office. So plan those days, organize those days with your staff well in advance so they can organize their life around that and know when it's coming, and create a certain degree of discipline around that as well. For example, the first Tuesday of the month is team building day, or the third Wednesday of the month is a coffee catch-up day with new stakeholders, or we're introducing new colleagues into the team every first week of the month. You become a little bit regimented around those things and really ask people to be part of that for obvious reasons. You clearly articulate those reasons and objectives. And that's how you can maybe find this kind of middle ground, hopefully.
You've written there are 3 areas of focus. Is that the first of them? And if so, what's the second?
The second area of focus, I'd say, is there is definitely economic challenges at the moment in the world. And I'm sensing with some of the clients I work with that it does mean tightening the belt a little bit and being a little bit more modest about or conservative about our strategic objectives and goals because of the economic environment. People are tightening their belts with mortgages, costs and expenses going up. Inflation has gone up in many countries. And if we're even dealing with international customers, then we will absolutely be noticing that there are economic challenges at an individual and also at a company level that we need to consider. So I think that will bring about some level of change, and that is something that leaders will need to play into and try and minimize the level of fear it might cause as well, because you don't want your staff to be operating under a constant blanket of fear, because that stifles innovation, it stifles collaboration. And so you really want to minimize that fear, but at the same time be mindful that we are working in a different environment at the moment.
And again, communicate with your staff.
Transparent communication, dialogue, absolutely.
Okay, so we've covered off on two of them. So what's the third area of focus as you see it as we go into 2023?
I alluded to it a little bit at the start when you asked me about the whole kind of the first challenge, and I elaborated on the working from home, working from the office dynamics. And it is about attracting and retaining staff and talented staff.
Still an issue.
Yeah, and at the moment it's a real shop around kind of opportunity for staff, because there seems to be a lot of opportunity for people to move around and to seize other opportunities. And so to keep them in your organization, those valuable staff, it is about knowing exactly what they want to get out of it. And it's not just a paycheck. It's a lot more than a paycheck. And we, on previous occasions when we've spoken about human beings really wanting to know that they contribute to a meaningful purpose, they want to know that they are recognized for that contribution as well. And they want to be stimulated. They want to constantly learn and see progress in their role. It doesn't just mean climbing the ladder. It means just expanding their knowledge and their skills and seeing that improvement within themselves, but also the contribution they provide. So talented staff look for a lot more than just a paycheck. Some of them love that flexibility of the hybrid way of working and don't really want to be forced back into the office. So there is a real challenge there for organizations and for leaders to create an environment in which their talented staff can really thrive and really want to stay and want to contribute.
Okay, so it doesn't become overwhelming. Can you please give me a simple thing that I can do to start me down this track?
Yes. Well, we've spoken about it. It's definitely about creating dialogue, open, transparent dialogue. It's about being curious as much about the leader sharing information, but opening up the doors to staff to say, ask your questions. I might not have the answers straight away, but tell me what's on your mind. What are you most worried about? What are you concerned about? Or what are you keen to understand better? Or maybe the strategic direction of the organization, or how their work is linked to that strategic direction, or what they could do differently. Creating an open dialogue means that people are less living in their heads and more being present in the workplace and connected with their colleagues and their leaders. So absolutely, I think the most important thing we need to really evolve in organizations is dialogue. And that can be dialogue one-to-one, but it also absolutely should be in a team format. So I really promote with the leaders I work with to do a 5-minute check-in at the start of a meeting and say, hey, what's everyone's word of the day? Or does anyone have an update on what they did on the weekend and want to share? It could be something personal. Could also be something to say like, has anyone read the latest newsletter? Do you have any questions about what's playing top of mind currently in the organization? Does anyone have any questions? A check-in allows people, gives that space to people to speak up and be heard and possibly learn something new.
If I were to prioritize these three things, what's the most important focus that I should be looking at?
I would probably say attract and retain talent, because that would probably be embodying all of the other aspects we touched on, like the post-COVID hybrid way of working would fall under that, because people will demand that in some shape or form. The economic situation we're living in means that you have to navigate that change in landscape and make sure that you keep your people focused on what they need to focus on and how they can contribute while things are volatile around them. So I think the last thing is like find creative strategies to attract and retain your talented staff and keep them happy.
That was change specialist and coach Esther De La Cruz. Business Essentials Daily is a SoundCartel podcast. Producers are Nick Schildberger, Chris Ashmore, Jeff Waters and myself. Technical production by Pete Letts. I'm Nicole Goodman. Thanks for listening. We'll bring you more Be Daily next week. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.